Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Boulder Literacy, the series where we break down world-class climbing content so that we don't just watch, we watch and learn. Today takes us to Prague for the 2024 World Cup. On the first boulder, every athlete managed to get the top except for Adam Ondra, who's looking to make up some ground here. Note that Serrato and Do-hyun both flashed boulder number 1, which was very impressive. Today's boulder starts by jumping up and catching 2 green slopers. From that point, there are a couple jibs on the black volume that must be used to traverse right. And finally, one last big move to catch the top sloper is how we finish off. We see Adam struggle to catch the first move. But he eventually gets it and starts cruising ahead. He reaches through and balances on his right foot, preparing to go for a big dynamic finish. Unfortunately, that slip at the end marked his best attempt, so he leaves this boulder untopped. Breaking down his corrections, notice how his left foot learns to be a bit farther left on the volume. If it's hard to tell the difference, it's in the middle of the chalk patch here, and on the left side of the chalk patch here. This results in his hips being farther left here, instead of coming way right like they do here. Up next is Manuel, who opts to ignore the left sloper. His persistence pays off, and he gets the catch with just 15 seconds left. From there, it's a race against the clock, but he gets the clutch zone just in time. Toby seems to be unhappy with the traditional beta. He isn't able to grab with both hands at the same time. There's a long time that he's just on this left arm. So he switches to putting both feet on the left volume, and this allows him to catch simultaneously. Unfortunately, he never gets this move either way, and leaves without even a zone. Do-hyun also has a few issues with this move. We see he finally gets it to land, so let's break that part down. First of all, Do-hyun learns to place his left foot farther right here, instead of having it here on the left side of the chalk patch. Next, let's examine the moment he catches. Here, his right knee is bent and his left knee is straight, while the opposite is true here. So we see on success, his torso is twisted right, while on failure, his torso is twisted left, pulling his arm off the sloper. On success, his body is square to the natural position of the slopers. Notice how the right sloper is on a different section of wall than the left one. From here, he has a good shot at the top. With only 16 seconds left, he has one last chance to finish the boulder, but time pressure forces him to rush his moves and he leaves with just a zone. Let's see how detrimental it can be when you're forced to rush your climb. Right from the beginning, we notice here that he doesn't have time to pick his left foot up, like he does here, which means his hips here are super perpendicular to the wall, while here they're parallel. And now you can see how much those differences affect this position. Here we can see that he simply raises his left leg and rocks over on his right leg. Notice how bent the right knee is, how straight his torso is, and how low and powerful the hips are. Over here on the other hand, the right leg is straight. His lower body is leaned to the left, and so his torso has to be leaned super right, and his left foot is kicked off the wall instead of hugging it. And all of this is because of him rushing and having to untwist his body at the same time as he jumps right. Finally, notice here how his left shoulder is high and his right leg is activated, while here his right leg dangles weakly, causing his left shoulder to droop too. Let's watch it through one more time since this was super instructive. Next we have Tomoa, who makes the first move look easy. But, on the other hand, he runs into some difficulty on the middle section. Let's see how he learned to grab the zone. This one is pretty simple, but it's a great tip to keep in mind. He simply reaches past the hold instead of stopping at it. Notice here how his fingertips go barely past the green, but here they're significantly past it. From this point, he feels awkward on the pull-through move, finishing the climb with a solid zone, but no top. Now it's all up to Serrato to finish this boulder when no other athlete could, and he's off to a phenomenal start. After almost flashing the first attempt, he slips off on the pull-through. And then he gets another good try in, but the top will remain elusive for all the athletes today. Let's see what we learned from him. The key to this step through is the left foot placement. Here we see the left toe pointing directly at the wall, meaning hips are less perpendicular and the left shoulder is less twisted. Here, we can see how using more outside edge on the left toe lets Serrato twist his left hip more into the wall and pull his left shoulder through more. This slight difference makes this brutal reach through a lot easier. With that knowledge, let's look at Tomoa versus Serrato. Notice here how Tomoa's left foot is using the inside edge. No wonder this move looks so awkward for him. Now let's focus on the final move. The difference between a good attempt and a bad attempt is that here, the left shoulder is higher, and the left leg is abducted at the hip, bringing it away from his body. Here, he's reaching with just his right hand, and has neglected the importance of getting the left side of his body up and toward the hold, just dangling the left leg next to his right. And now we can see why that matters. Notice at this point in the jump here, his right foot is far to the right of the jib on the volume where it started, which is because he jumped to the right more. On the other hand here, he jumped just straight up, instead of up and into the hold, which is why his right foot remains close to the jib where it started. Finally, let's finish this video off by going back to Adam and getting to the bottom of why he slipped off on this top move. The first thing we notice is how twisted Adam's torso is. His hips are parallel to the wall, and his right arm is super scrunched up while his left shoulder is showing off some flexibility. Because he started off with his weight so low and to the left, we see here that Adam's left hip is really dragging him down. And notice critically that his right heel is super dropped compared to Tomoa's foot here, which is horizontal. This was a fun boulder to cover, and we learned a lot despite the fact the scoreboard doesn't reflect much variation. Only Adam and Toby aren't tied for first. As far as today's MVP, it has to go to Do-yoon, who I really think would have topped the boulder if he had just a few more seconds at the end. Join us tomorrow for the third boulder, where the war of attrition for first place continues.